All right, we're live. Welcome to the Expo live stream. We are talking about how to deploy your Bolt vibe coded app to the stores with Expo. And we've got Tomek here from StackBlitz working on Bolt. We got Beto. You might have seen him before if you've been looking at our YouTube channel. Welcome, guys. How's it going?
Very good. Excited to be here. Welcome, everyone.
Awesome. We'll give folks a few minutes to get in here into the chat, into the room before we get started. But since this is the Bolt's Hackathon is this month, how is the hackathon going, by the way, Tomek?
I'm just checking the latest number. Oh, wow. So Hackathon is like kind of on its second week. We still have 19 days to go, if I remember correctly. Yes, that's correct. And at this point, the latest numbers, we have 94,700 participants.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That is a lot of people hacking on stuff.
Wow. Yes.
So yeah, as we're getting started here with the stream, I'm thinking about, hey, vibe coding, opening Bolt, typing prompts in, waiting to see what happens, and Bolt's pretty fast, but it takes a few seconds for a prompt to, especially when I'm like, hey, make me 16 screens, Bolt's going to take a moment to process that. So I was curious, guys, and everybody in the audience, what do you snack on while you're waiting for the prompt to finish?
Okay, this is a good one. I snack with hot Cheetos. Those are great, man.
What is it?
Hot Cheetos.
Oh, hot Cheetos. Oh,
yeah.
Ooh.
What about you?
Ooh, hot Cheeto. And I might be my choice here. I was thinking, I was getting into like the summer and like, I might want to do my vibe code like on my patio. And I was thinking about like, I want like a bratwurst and a summer shandy. I don't know if anybody has ever had summer shandy, like one of those beers that has like the lemonade kind of taste to it. It's like very light and refreshing. That's what I'm thinking about right now.
That sounds good.
Oh, nice. I don't like. I usually don't snack, but I turn to some other activity. Honestly, maybe ADHD. So I either have another Bolt session starting in another tab, or I like kid, like let's also while at it, let's try this one and let's try that one, right? Or if I'm particularly focused, I sometimes grab this and do some
Awesome.
play Bolt to make it happier. I think the results are usually better with the guitar playing.
If you serenade the AI agent, it will give you better results.
It's like with plants, right? You need to sing to it.
You can't get this advice anywhere else, guys. Oh my gosh. I shouldn't try to sing it. There's actually a song about, gosh, it's like 20 years old. It's about singing to houseplants. Look up a song about singing to houseplants later on. Okay. All right. We got folks in the chat. We're 3 minutes in, so let's get started. And we're talking today. We're in the middle of the Bolt live stream, so we're talking, or the Bolt the Bolt Hackathon. As Tomek just said, it was 19 days in already, or is it 19 days in or 19 days left for the Bolt Hackathon?
19 days left, so we're 19
still days left. So
before the
plenty of time to make an app. And we're talking today about how to deploy your vibe coded app during the Bolt Hackathon to the app stores or to anywhere, especially if you're making your app with Expo inside of Bolt, which, as we know, works perfectly quite well. Tell Bolt to start making a mobile app, and it will start making an Expo app, and you can test it out in Expo Go. You can deploy it to web. You can sync it to GitHub, and then pull it down and deploy it to the stores. So we've got Tomek from Bolt and StackBlitz, founding engineer, has been working on Bolt. Very busy in the hackathon, I'm sure. And we got Beto, who's here with Expo and often on our YouTube channel. Welcome, guys.
Hey.
All right. So, now that we got folks in the audience, I think, Tomek, you said that the Bolt hackathon, would you say 94,000?
90, almost 95 at this point.
Oh my gosh.
Looks like we're gonna hit 100. I like knock on wood before the end of week, because there's still people are still joining. It's just like amazing.
That's awesome. So yeah, still time to join, of course. As we said, 19 days left. So it sounds like the hackathon's going great. And we're going to talk about how to deploy. We're going to talk a little bit general about how, building apps to, like, what do you want to think about if you're just getting the hackathon, if you're new to coding, if you're new to vibe coding, what you might want to think about. So before we get into like, okay, I've built something, I want to actually ship it now. What are some things to think about just when building an app? I hesitate to use the word architecture, but like, what is like the big high-level architectural concerns? What are the big boxes we think about when building an app?
So I think that like very, very on a very high level, you want to think of like what the purpose of this app is going to be, where you're going to use it. So of course, like you're building a mobile app, so you probably want to have it on the go, right? But is this something that is primarily for yourself? A lot of people are building with vibe coding. It's been amazing for building just like a very small utility things. I recently built one for tracking people that are just coming on a bus on company offsites, because we're like always wanted to make sure that everyone are accounted for. So it's just like a fancy to-do list, really.
Oh, it's like
but
a checklist
really
of like
fancy.
this person's here, this person's there.
Yeah,
cool.
and with the contact infos too. So like, okay, this one is still like probably in their bed. Let's call them, and like, or maybe they're sick or something. So kind of like, but it's being used for just one person, right? A lot of other apps will be used by multiple people, and then you need to think of like, do they just want to read some stuff on it, or maybe they want to store something there to save something and maybe share between themselves and things like that. So I think this is like maybe the question number 2, after the question of like where you want to put it.
Right.
Is it like a mobile app or not?
I think one point though, in that app you built, I think it's a great message of like some of the magic of vibe coding, of working in Bolt, is that when you think about building an app, a lot of times we used to think about, I got to build the app that's going to be used by 1 million people. Like if it isn't like something that has like this huge audience, I shouldn't start. But when you can get started so fast, I think we think more about apps for any purpose. Like no matter if that's a very small audience, like just the people that are getting on the bus to make sure everybody's on the bus for the company retreat. I'm working on an app in Bolt right now to track the houses that you'll visit during the garage sale, like yard sale, like people selling stuff out of their yards in my neighborhood at the end of the month. So you can check out if you've visited every house. So it'll get used by, like 20 people, but it'll be fun. It'll be, it'll be a lot of fun. And a lot of people, I did like a very basic version. I had to manually code it because vibe coding wasn't that, big yet last year. And it was still like people like really enjoyed it. People were like, oh my gosh, that app was so cool. So now I'm doing it again. It's gonna be like 10 times better and it's gonna take 1/10 the time.
Yeah. And to add to that, you can also, nowadays you can start over again, over and over again.
Yeah.
So if there's something that you don't like in your current app, just go ahead and start from scratch and make it a new result. Or just to experiment with, new variants, new UIs.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I think this is my third. Yeah, this is now my third start over on it. And I didn't blink at it because I'm like, just file a new project, ask Bolt. Something will come out in a minute. I'll go get my bratwurst and my summer shandy. So yeah, moving on to the data aspect of it, we were talking about like two different use cases. There might be like the app that's just for you and you're tracking something, you're putting in some data, you're keeping something to retrieve later just for yourself. And then there's apps where you might want to share data with other users. You might, Beto's going to show in a moment, a an app, a water tracking app that will show shipping, and there might be a very basic version that's just let me track how many cups of water I drank today for my own purposes to make sure I drank enough water. And then there might be like, well, let me compare with my friends. How many waters do we all drink? So for what do we need to do to store data for an app that we're just using for ourselves?
Mm-hmm. So if you're doing it for yourself, usually you don't even have to think about anything specific. Bolt will handle it itself, because it can just store it with the app. So wherever the app is, the data is with the app, right? So if it's on your iPhone, it's on the iPhone. If it's on the Android, it's on the Android together with the app, right? If you want to share it with other people, of course, like you don't want to connect to every other iPhone that is using this app. So instead, you need some like centralized one place to put all that data from these phones, and to read to that place, and to read from that place, and to write to that place. And this is what we call a database. And in Bolt, you have we support what's called a Supabase, which is just like a database product. So when you will ask Bolt to store the data, or store my flower list or something in the database, Bolt will guide you through the whole process, basically saying that I set up this database for you. Just click this here to connect, and you're done. So, and that already allows you to have the data separately from your app, which means that every other person that is using this app will be able to share that, to use that database. That also, of course, brings another topic of, okay, do we want every person to use the same list of like flowers or houses or whatever that may be? So usually not. So in that case, we will want some user accounts, and with an ability to log in, to register, to create a new account. And thankfully, this is the same thing. This is also handled by Supabase. So again, as you vibe code your app, you can just ask Bolt to create user accounts, and if you already have that database, it will just add it. If not, it will start the database and add all the necessary stuff. So yeah, to be honest, this is tricky even if you were a developer. So as a developer myself, I always dreaded this, but with Bolt, it doesn't matter if you're a developer or not. You just as long as you're aware, okay, I need to add user accounts or user login, that's enough.
Yeah, personally, I haven't used the Supabase integration yet, because I like to keep things simple when I'm building an app, especially a new app that I don't really know if I personally going to use, or if someone else is going to want to use my app. So in those cases, I think starting with storing everything in the app itself is just easier for Bolt and for everyone. And then you can always connect a database if you want to, add that feature later on.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about vibe coding is like start. It can be agile. I guess it can progressively enhance things very quickly. You can start with, I want to store water, or my water intake, and you can then go later. Oh, I want to store it in Supabase, and I want other people to log in and share it. And you can add those things over time. And when you're coding on your own, like that's generally how we have coded apps when we're doing it manually. Like start with the simple use case because you want to actually demonstrate something working, and then you want to move in the next thing and make that work. But that cycle is so much faster with AI because AI can refactor so fast. It can just change all the code around much quicker than we can. So you don't pay a penalty for going down one path and then going down a different path,
and then
you would with manually.
Yeah, you can feed in your previous app and just ask Bolt, okay, now use a database instead of
Yeah, you can literally have two versions of apps side by side and then figure out which one you want to keep.
And ideally, if you're going to add a database, it's because a user asked you to do it, not because, you know, I think that would be
true.
to validate that the app is being used.
I think when talking about, and this is advice I give folks, whether they're coding with AI or not, when talking about like making your first version, just getting it out there into the world, and you're talking about users logging in, we'll see a lot of apps in the real, they're shipped in the stores, and we'll see like log in with Google, log in with Apple, log in with this, log in with that. And while that like is very attractive and you like might want that in V1, I stress to keep it simple. Like focus on the thing that is going to make your app unique versus stressing about this part, this logging in part that is kind of everybody just has to do. Username and password login is, very simple in Supabase, and, Bolt will, build that right up for you. If you want to go like a little bit further, one thing that I like about Supabase is it has those like one-time passwords where you can put in your email address and then it sends a code to your email. And then you paste that back in, and that can be like another, like a one level up without getting too complex. And though that one, you do have to like sign up for an email service, and there are free email services you can connect to Supabase. So that's a little more involved than username and password. But if you want to, have something, want to go a little further, I think that's another decent option there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think like it's something that was touched even before I think we started this train of thought, was that oftentimes like it's so easy to just restart or getting started again. And this is something that we do in software very often, but even outside, like I'm like in my spare time, I'm making stuff like in woodworking stuff. So I started doing instruments recently. But the first thing that I did was like I just took a blank, like a plank as an old guitar string, and I just attached one to the other to just get me over this like stress of, like musical instrument, I'm not a luthier, or like what am I even doing? So this was very like pretty much a very simple prototype. And so treat your first app as a prototype just to make sure it does what inspired you to make this app, and don't think about these like database like user accounts and things like that. Just have maybe I would suggest just to have this like a mindset of, okay, this is a throwaway thing just to see how it will look like on the screen. So this is the whole beauty of this vibe coding, because once you see it on the screen, it will trigger something. It's like, oh, I hadn't thought of this. Or maybe you show it to someone else, and you will like do some other versions, and then you will already know that, okay, if I were to start from scratch, and then you just start from scratch with all that you've learned, and you have like a way better app.
Yeah, nice. True.
You talk about woodworking was making me think way back to my childhood. You guys ever did like Pinewood derby races where you make like the tiny little cars and you put little plastic wheels on them and you race them down like a track? Like that a little, awesome. And it's a lot of fun. We did them in like Boy Scouts, and like early on when I was like young, since my dad was very good at that, he would go make this very intricate car. Like he would like put it in the grinder and the sander and do all this whittling or whatever, and come out with something that looks super sleek, and all the little like weights would be drilled in so the weight would be optimal and it would go down the track as fast as it could. And I would be like, oh, now it's my turn, I should try to do it my own. I'd be like, I can't do any of that. Like, where do I go? But like really, like a car, like a wooden car is just like a block with 4 wheels nailed to it.
Yeah.
And later on, like, oh, I could start there, and it rolls. It isn't great, but I got started, and I could make it better from there.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now we've talked enough about making the app. So you get to the point where it's looking pretty good in Expo Go, and you're like, I'd like to ship this. So we're gonna talk and look at what it's like to actually deploy your app with Expo. And one cool thing about Expo is, so you start your app, say, hey, make me an Expo app, Bolt. Most apps that come out of Bolt, since you're using Expo Go, are often compatible with web too. So you can it's a what we call a universal app. It deploys to web, Android, and iOS. So yeah, Beto is going to show us what it's like to deploy here.
Yep. Dan, can you put my screen? Yeah, thank you.
And while he's getting the screen set up, I should add, if anybody has any questions, pump them into the stream and we will make sure we take some breaks and answer. Actually, wait, we have one question in here about eligibility here. So if I start with Bolt and to make my app feature rich, I have to use a development build, and now it will not run in the Bolt environment. Am I eligible for the hackathon?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we didn't want to limit. We like Bolt is very much just like a starting platform, ideation. You can do a lot. You can build your app to the very end in Bolt. But if it's either more convenient or necessary to use to take it out at some point, it's very much allowed.
I think like a great example of that, like you could build an app and you could build all the functionality of like, hey, this is how the data goes. This is what it looks like in Bolt. But then if the last step of like, hey, I want to do like in-app purchase for a specific feature, that would be a case where you would, maybe connect it to GitHub. So then you can download it to your computer and add the in-app purchase feature, which is something that requires a development build because Expo Go can't include the code for in-app purchase. Like you have to actually do a bunch of things. You have to actually put products on the App Store. You have to follow Apple and Google's rules for that. So that would be a case where you've built, really kind of almost everything in Bolt, and you've just added this one little thing that you're going to use, for shipping. So that sounds like that's very much within the spirit of the competition.
Yep, that's correct.
All right, Beto, take it away.
Yep. So here's the Hydrotrack application that we were talking about earlier. It's just a simple app for me to track my water intake, and that's all. So I got it like in 2 prompts, I think, pretty easily, I would say. And I'm super happy with the results. As you notice, it looks beautiful, and it also has charts and setting screen. Have a little warning here, but that's fine. The app still works just great. And I think the warning is because of maybe the notifications. But yeah, I'm happy with this result.
What did your prompt look like? Just curious, because like I made a water app and it looked good to you, but yours looks really good.
So one thing about Bolt is that actually you can improve your prompt here. So if you type anything, then you can press this enhance prompt. And that's basically how I do it.
Oh my gosh, I did not know about that button.
Yeah, let me show you. It's this here. And basically Bolt created the prompt. I just said, I want an app to track how much water I drink. And then it created this prompt. This is how it looks. So
oh my gosh, that's so
fairly
cool.
large, very detailed. Talks about the setup and settings, the interface, notifications, which is great. I didn't even ask for that, I think. And it's great because it uses the local notifications. So I don't need to set up anything.
Oh,
it
that's really
schedules
smart.
the notifications and then reminds me, okay, you have to drink water. And that's great.
Hey, hang on, guys. I got to go use this button. I was kidding. I'll stay here for another half hour.
Oh, we need to make it more visible.
Yeah. It also provides design guidelines, which is something that I really liked. And then the data structure. Everything is saved locally on the device. So I don't have to worry about any databases or anything. And it also makes it compatible with web. And here we can see it. And it's fully responsive, looks great everywhere. And now I'm happy and ready to ship it. And I want to mention that I also created this video on the Expo channel. It's called How to Publish Your Bolt on You. So Dan, if you can put the link in the chat if anyone is curious, where I go in more detail explaining how to download everything, how to set up your computer to run the project locally. You can check out that video. But yeah, so once you are happy and ready to deploy this application, you can just download the project. Here's the button, the top right. And once you download it, you can open it on VS Code or Cursor, whatever you like. And this is how it looks. So I haven't even run it. This is how it looks. This is the code. On the left, we have a bunch of files, and that's the code that makes my application. And on the right, I have my iPhone. It's an iPhone 13 Pro that I use for testing. And I don't have anything fancy, but I do have this Test Flight application that you guys can see here. This Test Flight application, it's for developers. So when you're developing for Apple, you need to have an Apple developer account, and then you can download Testlight that allows you to test your applications before going to production. So download Testlight, sign in with your Apple developer account, and then you should be good to see your apps there. And here I have this window called Terminal.
That's probably an important point there if you've never shipped an app before. Is
Yeah.
so you can do like all of your design prototyping. You can get really far with the Expo Go app, which is an app you download from the App Store. You don't need anything else for that, and you can work with that directly in Bolt. When it's time to ship, when it's time to put your app on a device, whether that's to like test it before shipping it to the store or just going directly to the store, you need an Apple developer account. So that is you go to developer.apple.com, you sign up for their program, which is $99 a year. That is like a requirement of the App Store. Trust me, that Expo, like that's not just an Expo thing. That's for any Apple app. And it's probably good to leave, give yourself a day or two, because I think they do take some time to process that. I'm not sure how fast it is it's probably pretty fast for an individual developer, but if you're getting close, go and you're ready, you want to ship to iOS, go get that step done.
Yep. This is the website, so that everyone can see it.
And to get Google out of the way, we'll come back to Google, but Google Play is a $25 one-time fee to have the Play Store access. And but also give yourself a little bit of time to sign up for that too, because they will do like verify you're a real person, that kind of thing.
Yep. And also Apple charges you $100 per year as well. So, anyways, once you have your developer account, you are ready to ship. So I open this terminal. You can open the terminal just by pressing this new terminal button here. This is going to open a terminal. And once you have a terminal, you can simply type MPX Test Flight. There we go. And hit enter. And this is going to ask me to install this package. I'm going to say yes. And this is actually very important and a good point to stop and just ask everyone to, if this is new for you and you are kind of scared of what you're seeing here on the terminal, it's totally okay. This is a normal process, and it's good to just say yes, especially if you don't understand what you're doing right here. You don't really need to understand what's happening. Under the hood, Expo and Expo Services, it's handling and updating this project to the cloud. And then we are going to, Expo is going to build that project in the cloud and then submit it to the store so that we can see it on Testlight app. But in order to do that, it needs my credentials. It needs to know my Apple developer account, and I need to provide some permissions and provide some information about my application before I ship it. But it is important to just say yes in here. So as you notice, it's asking me to log in my Apple developer account. So I'm going to say yes. And then I need to provide my email and password. So I already had a session and is using that. And I need to allow myself here. So give me 1 second. I need to put this number here. 819. Okay. It's validating the code. And then I need to select my team. So obviously, I think you would have just only one team. I have two. And just hit enter. Now it's doing some stuff. It's uploading the project to Expo Services. And after all these things, the build is in progress. Now we just need to wait a little bit. It usually takes like 10 minutes to build the application. And you can track the progress if you click on these links. This is actually going to take you to the Expo dashboard. So if you guys want, I can just copy paste this here to see how it looks. This is the Expo dashboard, and I can see that I have a build in progress. We just need to wait until this is done. So I already did this before, so I can just go ahead and cancel this.
One thing to note with that Apple login step too is that is happening entirely on your computer. So you are not actually, like, if you're concerned about passwords and security and all that stuff, you're not sending your Apple password to Expo servers. It's logging in your computer. It's doing the things on your computer so it can generate the things that Apple requires for your app to build, and then sending those things to the Expo server with your code, so then it can get built. It can all get mashed together and come out as an app.
Yep. And this is how it looks once it's done. As you notice, this one I created it 20 days ago, but today it's the same process. I click on it and I can download the artifact and just inspect what happened with my build, but just notice that it's finished. That's all. And then on the left, you can also check the submissions. Submissions are builds that were submitted to the store. So I have this one 20 days ago as well, successful. And yeah, so this means that my application build is now in the App Store, Test Flight. And we can actually see that just by opening Testlight. But yeah, this command, apart from building and submitting your application, it's also going to invite all the members of your Apple developer account to be testers of your application. So in my case, I am an admin, and that means that I got an email inviting me to test my own application. So once you get that email, you need to accept that invite. And let me show you how this looks quickly on the Apple developer account. So if I go to my account here, let me sign in. And let me do this again.
Apple likes those additional factors a lot.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. So I haven't done anything, right? So if I go to my apps in my Apple developer account, this command also created this app that you can see here. Now the name of my app is Hydrotrack, but that name was taken. But that didn't stop the command. Instead, it just updated the name with this ID to ensure that this name is unique, and Apple would allow us to continue the process. And that's great because we can always change the name of our application before submitting it. But the goal is to just get the application into the Testlight tab. So if we go to the Testlight tab, I can see my application that I uploaded. And that's it. Also notice that on the left, we have this internal testing group, and it says Team Expo. Expo created that automatically. I didn't have to do anything. So basically, it's just a matter of waiting once you run the command, and then you should get the invite. You can accept it and then open Testlight. And as you notice, I have my Hydrotrack application. And from here, it's just a matter of installing it. And then open it. And boom, it is asking me for permissions to send notifications, and I'm going to allow them. And then we can start using it. So
nice.
You can start adding water, going to the history, settings, turn off reminders, turn them on. And that's how it looks.
One thing that's hard to see when we demonstrate it, because we often have these like things already plugged in on our computers, is that if you're running that MPX Test Flight command for the first time, if I remember correctly, the Expo needs this like key from Apple in order to actually submit your app after the build. But the MPX Test Flight command should prompt you for that.
Yep.
And I believe it's been a while since I looked at that prompt because I already have it set up, but I believe it gives you a link to the documentation on how to go retrieve that key. Basically, it's kind of you're do a little bit of back and forth between Apple's interface at developer.apple.com and the Expo interface to plug these values in that you're going to need from Apple to send over the wire.
Yep, and I think I did that in this video. So if anyone is curious,
oh, cool, perfect.
you just have to say yes. Any-
Just keep
any
saying
question.
yes. Trust us, it'll get done.
Yeah, it'll get done. As you notice here, it says push key, and it generates one for you for your project, and it handles everything for you, so you don't need to do anything. Just say yes, and that's it. But yeah, on top of that, I want to show you guys that this actually works on the web as well, because this is a fairly simple application. It stores everything locally, and I want to show you how you can deploy this as a website, which is actually easier to share. Maybe we can share it live here.
Awesome.
So once you have your project, another command that you can run to export this application as a website is MPX Expo export, and then we pass this P flag and we say web and hit enter. So what this is doing is just exporting my application as a website, and then I can run a command. Let me clear my terminal, EAS deploy, and then I can say that I want to deploy this to production. That's all. So EAS deploy prod --prod, hit enter. And just like that, it's asking me, okay, what URL do you want to use for your application? So I'm going to use hydrotrack.expo.app. This domain is free, and Expo gives it to me for free as well, so I can use it. And it's uploading the export of the website. And this usually takes seconds. And yeah, just like that, now I have this link that everyone in the live stream can actually use. Let's put it here and see how it looks. This is my app, and it's in production working.
Woo! We shipped
Yep.
the prod already. We're all live.
And that's basically it. Any questions?
So there's actually a question right here. I'm pretty sure you can't do this, so I can't remember. I mean, I know there's probably a number of reasons, but the EAS CLI, I don't think you can or should try to run anything in Bolt with that. Is that correct, or does some of that work?
Yeah, that is correct. There is like a subset of things that can run because we run it in a very specific way. So usually like tools that work that need very tight integration with the operating system to simplify this, they need to run outside of Bolt.
Yeah.
Hence, also why it's the yes answer for the hackathon question. A lot of times you might want to run it outside of Bolt.
Yeah, the Bolt experience is optimized for that live local development experience, or local in in your web browser experience. But there was one thing I was thinking about though, related to that though, that is interesting. The integration with GitHub is pretty new for Bolt, and I find that really an interesting way to work in these, between Bolt and these contexts where you might need to open your app locally on your computer. I just tried it where you can, click that integration button, connect it to GitHub. It creates a GitHub repository. So now my code is on GitHub, and that you can download to your desktops. And now you have something that you can kind of sync between your local computer and Bolt. So I could actually go back later into Bolt after I've already deployed my app and send more prompts, and then those changes will be basically mirrored.
Yeah, that's very much so. And on the Bolt side, it's actually once you connect it to GitHub, it's automatic. So every time you add something new to or you prompt something Bolt, and Bolt adds this, and it doesn't result in an error. If it does result in an error, we don't do it. But if it's results in a update to your app, this automatically syncs to GitHub. So then on your local machine, you can just git pull and get all the changes right after you prompt it.
Yeah, that was really cool when I made some change in my computer and I wasn't even thinking about it. And I went back to the Bolt window and it said, like, we've synced the changes from your external source. And they were all right there. It was pretty magical.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that. I've been missing.
So this is kind of a tangent, but this is like, so don't ask me, don't don't contact me and say, complain if this doesn't work, because I haven't finished trying it yet. But when we're talking about like, things you can code in Bolt versus things you might have to take, out and use like what we call a development build, which is you're going to make your own version of Expo Go. And it actually is very similar to what Beto demonstrated in terms of like building it with, Expo application services, building it in the cloud and then getting back a build. But the only difference is it's something you can actually develop with, so you can use it for features like social login or in-app purchase or things like that. My one theory is I was actually trying to connect to GitHub, download it locally, add the development build, add the dev client library, add one feature. In my case, I wanted Expo Maps, which isn't in Expo Go yet. And then I was going to go try later on to see if I could I know the URLs wouldn't match, but my theory is if I pasted the URL into Expo Go after it was on Bolt, it might work. Crossing my fingers. I'll let you know later if it works. All right. So how about Android? What happens on Android?
Well, Android, it's actually a bit easier, I would say, to get an app on your Android device. I do have an Android here. But the way you can do it is using Expo application services. It's not a simple command. Right now, we are working on improving the experience of submitting an Android application to the Play Store. But if you want to just quickly install an application on an Android device, you can create an APK and then just sideload it on your Android device. You can follow some of our documentation to do that. Let me see if I can quickly find it here. On the EAS reference, no, on the Learn, sorry, we have these tutorials about Expo application services. And we have this Android development build section that actually comes with a video and walks you through how you can create a development build for Android. And it's very similar to what we did with iOS. So if we go to the dashboard, at the end of the day, you can create an Android build. But if you notice here on the download button, this artifact is an IPA, sorry. Meaning that this build is optimized for the app stores. But if you create a build, for example, we can actually do it here. So if I go to the eas.json, this is a file that configures how you can build your application. You can add, I believe, something called build type APK, something like that. I'm not sure if this is the correct.
Actually, it should be enough to do distribution internal. We'll make it an APK.
Okay, great. So you don't need to do anything.
Yep.
Just come here and run EAS build. Select the platform to be Android, and then we can pass the profile development. And the profile comes from this section here, just specifying that this is for internal distribution. And if I hit enter, this is going to now install the Expo Dev client. So I'm just going to say yes again. The CLI is actually super smart. So in most cases, you just want to say yes to whatever it asks you. Now it's asking me for a package, which is an identifier for my application. So I'm just going to select the default, hit enter. I need to generate a key store. I'll say yes. And that's it. Now it's building the project. It's going to build it in the cloud. And once the build is done, I should be able to see my build here. As you notice, now it's in progress. Once this is done, you can download it as an APK and drag and drop into an Android emulator or install it directly on a real device.
A big difference between Android and iOS there, and why we have like an MPX Test Flight command, is because iOS requires you to interact with Apple's website in order to test on a device.
Yeah.
MPX Test Flight doesn't. It gets you close to shipping to the store, but you still have to do a number of more things in their website in order to actually ship it. Meanwhile, Android, you don't have to interact with the Play Store until you are ready to go live on the Play Store. You can download the file directly to your phone. You have to hit a bunch of warning prompts. They'll be like, are you sure you want to install an unauthorized sourced app or something like that?
Yeah.
But once you click yes to all those, that's the theme of today is just click yes. Then it'll be running right on your device. And frankly, you can even, if your friends are all willing to do that too, you can distribute your app to small groups of people that way directly. It's just a download.
Yep. Not sure if you have to enable developer mode. I don't remember.
I don't think you do. I think it's the way it works now is it asks you if you can install like an app from like this app or this browser. Like, am I allowed to install an unauthorized app from Chrome or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
There's another one of those I'd have to remember exactly because I've already clicked all those buttons on my phone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's usually Android takes like 15 minutes to build, so this is going to take a while. But you can trust me. Once that's done, you can just download the APK and install it.
Cool. All right, so we have a question here about best practices. Suggest best practices for development cycle with Bolt and Expo, like dev iterations, testing in Expo or simulator, build and then deploy. Any thoughts?
So I think one thing I would say maybe before or maybe more on high level is that I would optimize for yourself for not getting in the weeds and the technical things. So you want to see the effects really fast. You want to iterate very often. So for this, how I usually do it is I keep the progress in Bolt if it's possible with Expo Go. It's like it's because it's as fast basically to update the app in Expo Go, and the experience on that device is very much more refined than what you see in the preview. But other than that, unless I'm adding something very new, like the database, maybe I'm not going outside of this cycle of just like making stuff in Bolt and seeing it either in the preview or Expo Go. When I add something bigger, like let's say that user account or the database or some other like feature that is requires like a native functionality or something, then oftentimes I would go a little bit further down the cycle. So even down to like doing the test flight. But if I'm just rearranging stuff on the screen or adding another screen with nothing really breakthrough, then I'm fairly sure I haven't broken anything, and it still works the same way as it was working on the last actual build, right? So I think that that's the tip from my end.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think if you are not comfortable like jumping into the code, you can always use AI tools. Like right now, I'm using Cursor that allows you to have like a similar to Bolt, a box with instructions like in here, and I can ask, for example, like create a new screen, and this is aware of the current code that we have thanks to Bolt. But I don't know, we can say create a new screen called about, and just hit Command Enter. I think that's for, so that it knows everything that is happening on the screen, on the code base, sorry. And it's kind of scanning everything, and then it's going to do it. Very, very similar to what we have with Bolt here. And then if we were using Git, I think we can just push these changes and maybe ask Bolt to do some more changes. And then it's going to push it to GitHub. Then we pull the changes here. But yeah, it is actually doing it, I think. It's creating this about screen. let's give it a moment.
Yeah, kind of going off of what Tomek was saying, and we were talking about this real early in the stream about like front loading those things that are like really unique about your app. Like what's unique about your app is like how it, you know, asks for input, how it displays data, what its layout, what its different screens are. And those are all things that work just great in Bolt. Like they'll, you know, Bolt to Expo Go, you'll be able to iterate all those things. And then that like those last mile of things that are like native integration, like in-app purchase, maybe push notifications, things like that, that kind of are like this dressing around that core experience. Then you'll, you know, pop out into Visual Studio Code and work on that. And then on your way, of course, to actually deploying it to a device for that final testing and shipping to the App Store. This is where I'm really excited about that GitHub integration, is because I think it makes that back and forth so much easier to do.
Yep. And I think this worked. So I'm just going to accept all changes. And now we have a new file here on the left that says about, and that's actually my new screen. Now to test this, we can still use Expo Go, but of course you need to be, I would say, more aware of what's going on with the project and know a bit more about the terminal, how to run commands. But you know, as you move, so now once you get started with Bolt, I think if you want to really keep working on your application, improve it, you're going to need to learn more about Expo, more about how everything works under the hood. But once you are comfortable running basic commands, you can open your terminal and start the server and use Expo Go. So I have Expo Go here. And I think I can just open the camera and scan this QR code. Oh yeah, it is using a development build. Not sure if this is going to work. Let's see. Let's try Expo Go. Okay.
Woo.
I'm not going to allow it, but now I have my about screen. And this is how it looks.
Cool. Look at that.
And yeah, it is using the beautiful
Live
UI
coding
that Bolt created. The same primary color, which is great. Spacing, everything looks amazing. And it feels right? If you go to home screen and then come here, it feels like it's not an off screen.
Yeah.
And then
looks
once
like it's always been there.
Yeah. And once you're ready to ship this and start testing it on Testlight, you can open a new terminal and run MPX Test Flight again. And this is going to do it again. Just one thing that you need to be aware of is that you have to increase the version of your app if you are going to submit it to production. So let's say that this is a new version of my app. So I'm going to increase the version to 1.0.1. Or it doesn't really matter. You can say 2.0. But what I usually recommend is that if it is like a full refactor of your app, increase this number. If it's a new screen, I would increase this one. If it's a fix of a typo, increase the last one. And that's it. So once you do that, run MPX Test Flight, and you'll get the new version here to start testing.
Cool. Speaking of I don't want to spend too much time there because it's basically just filling out forms. But I was wondering if you could show real quick in App Store Connect what it looks like as you're actually going from, okay, I'm testing in Test Flight to actually shipping, because there is like a few things you need to fill in before you actually get it to the App Store.
Yes, exactly. That's a good question. So what you can see here, this build is the one that I can see on Test Flight, and I'm the only guy that is testing it right now. So no one really knows what's happening. So once I'm ready to distribute this, apart from my internal testing group, you can do an external testing group. Apple allows you to create these external groups that includes up to 10,000 external testers. And I created this group here. And once you have your build, so I already have my build, so I can select this one, press next. Then I need to enter my name, last name, and stuff. And if your app needs sign in, you need to provide a username and password so that Apple people can test your application. But once you do this, you can submit this form, and Apple needs to approve it for external testing. Once Apple does that, you get a link that can share with anyone, and they can download Testlight, and with that link, join the beta testing of your application. That's for up to 10,000 developers, which is great, I think. And then you can submit it to production, which has some limits. In that case, you need to go to the distribution tab and basically fill out all the information about your application. You need screenshots. You will need a promotional text, a description, keywords, app information, everything about your application. But an important part to notice is that you need to select a build, which is the actual app that you're going to be shipping. In this case, I already selected number 4, but I can just delete it so that you know how this looks. Just press the add build. And in this case, I only have number 4. So you select the build. And then once you fill everything in here, you added tester information and all that, just add it for review. You can find this button here. It's giving me a warning because I didn't provide anything. But I want to show you, I actually have a couple of examples of how this looks once you are ready to ship it. For example, I have this quick call AI. This is one app that it's actually available for public external testing. And this is the link. So if anyone wants to join the beta testing, can use this link and they can use it. And as you notice, I have many people that have enrolled just to test my application. That's up to 10,000 again. And I also have one that is in production that I like to show as an example. It's the shopping list application. This is how it looks once you have worked on your application and iterate on many things. As you notice, I started with version 1, and then I started adding stuff to my app. So I went increasing the build up to 28. This is the latest one. And this is not in production. This is all Testlight. But if I go to distribution, on the left here, you can find 1.3.5, which is the one available today in production, and you can download it on the App Store. And if I go to the app information, I provided this info, but I want to show you how this looks on the App Store. This is the app. It is actually using, everything about Expo. That's it. And if I go back here, let me show you how the screenshots look like. You drag and drop your screenshots. You provide a promotional text, like organize your shopping effortlessly. I created this with ChatGPT, so I didn't wrote anything. And that's it.
That's a great point. Is AI can help you with a lot of this. Making icons, making splash screens, screenshots. There's a lot of resources online to help you make a screenshot. We have a template in our docs to help you place your icon in the splash screen. It's like a Figma template that you can use with the free Figma.
Yes.
And for the descriptions, you can use Bolt. There's a discussion mode in Bolt, and it knows everything about your app already because you use it to build it. So you can just go and ask it to make your descriptions.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cool. And we also have a video on how to create icons for your app and splash screen. So you can use a template and it's going to look amazing. And once you're ready to, so for example, right now that we added a new screen and you want to ship a new version, so just come to the app.json, bump the version, and then you can create a new release here. It's going to copy everything that you had from production already. So you don't need to add screenshots again. You don't need to provide any info again, just a promotional text. I don't know why Apple does that. But once you do that, come down here and select a build. Now, keep in mind that the build that you create, so in this case, the version that you create, in this case, 1.5.6, needs to match the build that you created. Okay? So make sure that you have that and then select a new build. So I don't have one in this case, and it's asking me to upload more.
So basically, the app, as you're shipping, it'll keep prompting you until you have all the things. And when in doubt, ask Bolt, and it could probably help you fill in the blanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So yeah, wrapping up here. Wrapping up here on the hour. We had one quick question I'm going to answer very quickly from Sam. Coming from Angular, coming from a different platform, what are the next steps for me to get into Expo and Bolt? Number one, just check out Bolt. Literally go to bolt.new and type in "make me a mobile app," and you'll be into Expo. One thing I recommend to anybody vibe coding with Expo who wants to maybe understand a little bit more of what's happening, especially once they download it and do some of these things. We have tutorials at docs.expo.dev. We have a tutorial for Expo in general, like just build what is it like to build an Expo app, and then we have one for EAS, Expo Application Services, that actually walks you through those different features that are relevant as you test and deploy your app. Just going through those tutorials, and they're very much like, hey, let me read it and then let me type it down. You don't need really any previous even development experience. You need just basic exposure to stuff that you're probably already seeing in Bolt in order to go through those, and that will give you a lot of the background information. Like that information plus Bolt, and the world is your oyster. You can build all sorts of things. So yeah, that's it. Thanks so much, Tomek. Thanks, Beto, for showing us around. We can anything to plug here, Tomek, before we head out here?
Probably hackathon.dev.
Yeah.
as I said, like we have so many people, but we also have a lot of awards. So and above all, it's a great opportunity just learn. If you haven't tried vibe coding yet, or you have and you have some ideas, we work with a lot of sponsors like Expo, like Anthropic, who are providing a lot of additional free promo codes and things like that. So you can actually use it as an opportunity to just, play with it for free. So
awesome.
Yeah,
that sounds great. Hackathon.dev. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and looking forward to all the great stuff you guys ship during Bolt Hackathon month.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.